What's going on today? Got my buddy on. Dude, what's up, Soji? We just connected recently and through a mutual friend, and you've got some great energy. I've been excited to get you on, and we finally got you. So thanks for taking the time and hopping on with me today. What's up, dude? What's going on?
Rob, the feeling is mutual, brother. I admire your continuous strive for growth. I've heard a bunch of kind of episodes as well, and I just love your vibe. And I'm excited to just connect and just share some value with you today, man. And just kind of learn and continue to grow from you as well. Me personally, your boy is just recovering from norovirus, man. It basically kicked me in the nuts. It took me and the
Ah,
entire family out this past week, man. And if you've never experienced norovirus, it's basically a gastro where you're basically hung over a toilet. You in the toilet or BFF for a couple of days. So, I mean, I'm finally kind of getting back into the groove and able to walk around and operate as a normal human being, and I'm highly grateful for that fact. So, attitude of gratitude just for that today, my brother.
yeah, man.
So,
I love that. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're starting to feel better and you're back into the swing of things. Before we dive into too much, mind giving a little introduction on who you are and what kind of people you help and what are you kind of doing?
my name, if you haven't heard, Soji James. I'm a strength coach. I'm a meditation teacher. I'm a speaker, and essentially, what I really try to operate in this world as is a change maker. Man, I really love to help people essentially take the pen back and write their own stories by helping them basically build and acquire skills across various disciplines, right? So, I usually kind of help out the burnt out dieter who's tired of the whole yo-yo situation, the starting and stopping. And I kind of help them essentially build out a lifestyle, right? Like I find that taking like a skills-based approach is extremely empowering. And I feel like, if we talk about like the fitness space in general, when you enter in, you kind of have the typical goals, to lose the 20, lose 30. I want to have like the biceps, like who's that guy in WWE, the Python guy, like you feel me, the 20-inch pythons. But I really try to help people kind of number one get clear and go internally first and get clear on what their core values are, what their whys are, and just kind of build out from there, right?
Hmm.
So, this essentially for me it could be one-on-one virtual training. I got like a 12-week group coaching course where I help people around the country just online in that aspect. I also do like a lot of meditation work and mindfulness. So, I tag that on to one-on-one sessions, but I also, done stuff corporate wise, going to companies and just,
Hmm.
basically kind of help people just get better internally in that aspect. So kind of run the
Wow.
gamut. It kind of runs the
Yeah.
gamut, but it kind of goes back to that, the major point of being able to take the pen back and write your own story. So I think that's extremely important in a world
Yeah.
that essentially wants you to, do what it sees as success. So
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome because um, I'm very similar with my coaching practice. It's more of a holistic approach where you're incorporating like a little bit of everything. Everybody's a little bit different, so certain people need a little bit of certain different things. And yeah, it really stems with that awareness and kind of looking inward before you can change outward kind of thing. And
100%.
I'm curious though, how did you get involved? Because there is so many different facets to the coaching world that you're doing. So where did you start? In strength and conditioning solely, or like how did that come apart?
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And if I'm getting my superhero origin story, right? It started like a swimming pool back at when I was 10 years old. So I'm on like a senior trip in elementary school, and I'm kind of the last kid. I'm like kind of really slow to get ready and organized, Rob. You feel me? So we're at the Poconos. We're at like a swimming pool. I'm the last kid out. I got my Pokemon towel because Pokemon was like hot at the time. You feel me?
Oh
The
yeah.
boys, yeah, come on. I was collecting them all. Rob. So the boys are lined up on one side of the pool. The girls are lined up on one side of the pool. And I come out with my towel. I'm feeling like I'm Justin Bieber walking out Floyd Mayweather to a prize fight. And I
Yeah.
get out to the pool, take my towel off, and all the boys and girls, in as if in unison, they all like, ew. So for me, for young Soji, like if I had a
Uh-oh.
Harry Potter invisibility cloak, I would have disappeared at that point right there. I would have took a rocket ship. You would have never even met me today, Rob. You feel me? So for me, that was like my first kind of interface with body awareness and health in general, how I looked at myself as opposed to how the world looked at me. And from that point, I kind of began to get into movement in general, right? I had an older brother who played basketball, and at that point, I was like, yo, I got to change something. So I started following him around, just kind of picking up the skills. got good enough,
Mm,
and eventually played in college. And when I was in
nice.
college, I had a strength and conditioning coach up at SUNY New Paltz named Keith Kenny. And I had never lifted up until that point. But, it's still, while my physique had shifted, being an athlete or whatnot, that still same awareness and self-love and self-validation, it was kind of skewed in a whole different direction, right? There still wasn't this self-respect, right?
Hmm.
But learning and getting into the weight room, that was one of the first places where I was like, yo, saying it with my chest a little bit more, right? You're starting to get stronger. You're starting to like really just love what your body is capable of doing. And it's such an intoxicating feeling, or rather like a addicting feeling rather, right? So like
Yeah.
you get this and you're just like, man, the same confidence that I can apply in the weight room, how can I take it out into the rest of the world and be the best version of myself? So,
Yeah.
now on campus, you walk into bars, everybody's looking up. You walk into a room, you give presentations, and I'm like, yo, I like this. Everyone should have this, right?
Yeah.
So that strength coach encouraged me. He was like, get a personal training certification. At the time, how he voiced it was like, in case you have nothing to fall back on, try this. So that was even a whole other thing to discuss about. But I got my first training certification when I was like 19 years old, and I haven't
Nice.
looked back since. So that first kind of got me into this sphere of just strength and conditioning. And then for me personally, when I was 24, so about 12, yeah, going on 11 years ago now, my father died of a random heart attack. So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate you, brother. Something continue to kind of learn and grow and evolve from. But I feel like at that point, my dad's an immigrant. He came here from Nigeria when he was 24 with nothing. And for him, success was being a doctor or a lawyer. That's just how he looked at it. So, me going into this personal training career, he used to always look at me and say, Soj, what are you doing with yourself? You're wasting your time. You're not. So it really made me kind of even look at myself a little bit differently. But I always used to
Mm,
kind of have a chip on my shoulder, like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Right? Watch me show you what success. Watch me impact lives. And I used to ignore calls and not pick up the phone. And eventually, one day I didn't have the opportunity to do so anymore.
wow.
And this was not something I was ever expecting. This was something where, I thought he'd be able to be old enough to raise my kids or help me raise my
Yeah.
kids rather. So for me, meditation, that's that point in my life. That's where that really became a big thing for me. It helped me kind of get through that initial shock and just self-explore, some of the
Yeah.
feelings I had bottled in and regret I had from not picking up the phone and connecting deeper while I had the opportunity. But like that whole area of mindfulness, that's when that really kind of took off for me. It just helped me navigate an extremely difficult time. But in addition to that, it really had me take a step back and say, like, all right, all these conversations I was avoiding, what is really important to me? What are
Hmm.
my values? What's my imprint that I want to leave on this world when eventually the clock stops ticking for me?
Yeah.
So a lot of those questions began to, I found that it helped me, and I was like, I need to share this. And it got, I guess, similar way to how the confidence from strength conditioning, right? Like it just kind of enveloped into
Yeah.
one.
So when you practice meditation, are you constantly thinking about all these different questions that you're kind of asking to yourself, or like what is your personal meditation kind of mindfulness practice look like? Is it guided or is it like
No, so it varies, but for the most part, I try to do it 20 minutes every single morning. And it's essentially like I may have a different focus, right? So, as I
Okay.
said, I have a 15-month-old, I got a 3-year-old, right?
Hmm.
So, if I say I start my meditation a little bit later than normal and they're screaming in the background, maybe that day, what I mean? Like I can't ignore them or mute them in the back, right? But that
Yeah.
could turn into a meditation of sound meditation, right? Where I'm really just focusing on everything in my environment and just really being as present as possible in that moment, right?
Mm,
So there may be another one where like maybe that week I'm feeling emotionally a little uptight. So I may shift it to a meditation of thoughts and emotions and just see
mm,
what are some of the thoughts that are continually popping up. So you kind of see them without judgment, right? So you're not
mm.
locking onto them, you acknowledge them, you let them pass, and we return to the present moment. There's this whole concept of impermanence around this type of meditation, right? And like that kind of, like I said, goes back to the whole concept with my father. So it really kind of resonates with me. We think that, a lot of times we're feeling happy or we're feeling sad, or, you maybe made a mistake in your business last week and you kind of let it run you into the ground, when in actuality, right, like it's one blip in the moment that will pass, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to end everything for us. So like when I come to understand that more, it just gets so much easier to navigate this difficult thing that we call life, or being an entrepreneur or business owner, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
You
that's
know?
so crazy because as you were talking before, how it kind of like started was like such a it was like the beginning of a lot of this like internal reflection and awareness, and it had me kind of thinking for a second there, like, yeah, because once I started meditating more consistently, these sort of things started to happen for me as well. But then I'm thinking to myself, I just follow a guided meditation through Headspace, and I've been using it for years, but I don't really think about anything. I just kind of sit there and pay attention to my breathing. Yeah, of course, some thoughts come, and I try to like I catch myself thinking about them, and then I bring myself back to my breath. But just sitting there, like turning my brain off, it like opened the doors for more internal thinking. And I'm like curious. I'm like, why? How is that? Because I'm not necessarily thinking of like, oh, my emotions and thoughts and things like that. But
Yeah.
it's just so that's crazy. I wasn't sure if there's different kinds of meditations that you go through for
Yeah.
certain things.
And there are different types too, but what I like to tell people with meditation, I feel like when you hear meditation, you think about like some bald dude in a robe in the Himalayas sitting cross-legged, but there's so many different types, and like whether you do it guided, whether you do it unguided, I think when we talk about meditation, the main important principle essentially is some kind of self-exploration, right?
Hmm.
So if you're even sitting down there and you're listening to guided, but this is the first time you've actually slowed down a week and paid attention to that breath, that's you going inward, right?
Yeah.
So I think the key with meditation is helping people just the more to understand that their practice is their practice, and there
Oh,
are no guidelines or specific rules. It's like you want to throw your drip, you want to throw your sauce, your swag on it, bro. Like that's what it's about.
yeah. I love that too because when I was going through it, I really got addicted to the Headspace app because every time you do it, you get that one more day plus, and then I was
Mm-hmm.
running that up, and I got it to like 200 days in a row, and then I got to the point where I was just doing it just to get that check mark so I could continue my streak, and then some days it would be like 3 minutes, and then some days it would be like the 16 or 15 like I tried to do normally. But then I got so caught up on that that I was losing track and focus of, hey, I'm not actually benefiting from this. I'm just trying to please the streak to maintain that streak. And
Mm-hmm.
then dawning on me like, hey, meditation is just meditation. There's no right or wrong way. It's just dedicating the time and it's you personally. So
One
whether you're
hundred
going for a
percent.
walk or doing this or that, it was like, boom. So that's I love that you said that because it's like everybody else. Everybody's has their own things going on, and everyone's a little different.
100%. 100%. I think that's a powerful thing for people to understand, Rob. You're right. Like it looks different, and I may have a sit where like that when I say sit, I may like sit down and meditate where my thoughts are super rampant. And I feel like I think a lot of times when people think about meditation, they think that it's this need to clear your thoughts completely and just eradicate everything in between these two ears. But there's so many research studies that they vary in terms of the number, but you'll see like 60, 80,000 thoughts a day. And if you
Cool.
plan to eradicate all of those, you're going to be there for a while. You feel me?
Yeah.
So I think even the whole concept of having these thoughts or these frustrations, but just returning back and just starting again and understanding that some days are going to look and feel different and easier than the other. I think that's important to get. And I started out with Headspace as well, man. And I get the plus one and like that feels good. And I think for
Yeah.
anyone who's listening, just getting started and finding out what works for you to just even get you hooked on the habit itself is a big thing, right? So if that's
Nice.
walking meditation, if that's Headspace, if that's something guided, if that's listening to Deepak Chopra on YouTube, like whatever it is, like find what works for you and just get going.
Now, so do you meditate currently on a daily basis,
Yeah,
or is it just kind of free flow,
yeah,
like trying whenever you kind of get it in?
every day. So that's how I start my morning. So it's one of my, I like to call it my holistic hour, right? So there's like
Mhm.
maybe 4 to 5 things that I have on a checklist that I try to knock out. And if I don't hit all of them, it's not the end of the world to me. I give myself flexibility, but meditation is the first one. So that's the one that essentially always gets done. And then I try to use it as a point too, where, running a business and having 2 young kids and also trying to be an amazing partner to an amazing partner as well. Like there's a lot of stressors, there's a lot of different factors pulling you left and right. So I always like to remember that the breath is a place of refuge that you can come back to at any point during the day, right? So
Mhm.
if my kids are coming, like getting one of my sons out to daycare this morning was like it was like a WWE wrestling match. Put the pants on, he rips them off, he's throwing them over his shoulder, and for me, how I react in these moments, that's what he's going to learn. And that's how he's going to react when situations are pressure filled or they feel unbearable. So for me, it's a quick breath. And he's just like, Dad, why are you doing that? I'm like, yo, it's a part of life for me now, right? And he just
Yeah.
learns now when he's a little frustrated or upset. So that's a little mini meditation, but I always start my day with him. I think it's
Uh,
important.
yeah, I love that. And practicing right in front of him, he's picking those up, and he's gonna be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody when it comes to his
100.
emotions and his mind space,
That's it.
mindset and headspace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, because you had said attitude of gratitude. I think either before we hopped on or right as we started. Um, Now, where does gratitude fall into your practice of
That's
everything?
that's the number two on that box, man. I meditate. I feel like that sets my stage here, and then I begin to reflect, right? So gratitude, I think that's got me. I'm a kid from the projects in the Bronx, man. Like I've been in situations where I've been on a basketball court. I've seen a guy step onto a court with a semi-automatic pistol, shoot 9 people. Like I've
Jeez.
been like I've seen a lot of things. I've been robbed at gunpoint. Like now for me, I've woken up in the middle of the night where I'm stomping, there's roaches running everywhere. Like I've had nothing, and now I run a business. I'm a homeowner. Like I got 2 young kids who got space in the backyard, a dog running back there, right? So for me, every day I wake up, I'm living in the game. I'm living and looking with appreciation about where I come from, the connections I've been able to foster, the people who continue to inspire me to take one extra step to make things happen in this world. And I
Oh,
find that this attitude of gratitude, man. Like life is easier with a smile, man. Through
oh
all
yeah.
the difficulties and hardships, man, it's easier with a smile. It's easier to connect. It's easier to share our pains. It's easier to be vulnerable. So that's how I approach it, man. I try to keep my cup filled, and go out and fill other cups.
Love that. Yeah, I remember somebody saying once that I think there's like 2 or 3 times the amount of muscles required to frown than it does to smile. So
Smile,
that, yeah, it makes it so much easier just
seriously.
living life with a smile.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know me personally, I've been making a huge commitment to step up my gratitude. And I was just checking a second ago, and today was actually my 305th day in a row of doing my gratitude journal, which I feel pretty proud about.
That's
Um,
amazing, bro. We streaking. We
yeah.
streaking. Let's
Oh, yeah.
go, brother. That's amazing, man.
And this year I'm trying to crank it up a notch by I try to send one gratitude message out per day to somebody, but it's like a full heartfelt one, because then
I
that's
love
opening
that.
me up to giving more gratitude, which then I can learn to appreciate a little bit more.
I
So
love that. And I think too, man, when it comes to gratitude practices, like there's so many ways to do it, right? Like, I personally, I like what you said too. So I start out with the 3 things I'm grateful for.
mhm.
But a big one for me is that one too. It's sending out the acknowledgement, the thank yous, right? Like, I think, for us too, man, this goes back to what I was saying with my dad too. Like a big learning point for me from that experience was when you love somebody, when you appreciate them, when they've impacted you in any way, there's no reason to hold on to that. Give it out to them. Give the flowers out while you have the opportunity and the chance to do so.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm texting 2 to 4 people a day, like, and it's like, one, I'll try, like, everyone can't be that deep, heartfelt, but like,
yeah,
I feel too as well, if there's even something simplistic that made my life a little bit easier, or that I learned, or somebody was super vulnerable on a post, and I understand how difficult that is. Thank you for sharing that. I'll slide in the DMs, shoot them a message of appreciation. Like, I think that's such a powerful thing, because this whole thing of, number one, like, you giving out this love, the universe only gives that shit back, right?
yeah.
Tenfold. I really believe in karma big time. But in the aspect of looking around for things that to be grateful for, I feel like, where we focus our attention, our energy, wherever we focus our energy, our attention flows, right? So
Hmm.
I think the more we can recognize and realize how great we have it, or, maybe, and I feel like a lot of times we think about like joy or gratitude, maybe people think it has to be like this crazy wild thing, but it's really the simple things that maybe make your life a little bit easier. The more you can recognize those, the easier it is to recognize more. So you just kind of
Hmm.
go into like a cascade like effect, and you're just feeling just better on a day in day out basis. And I feel like, as a business owner, as a human, right, like we go through some tough and some tumultuous and challenging times, right? But if we go always take a step back and realize we may be a little bit further than we were the day before, it just makes, puts things in perspective, and it makes that long-term journey that we're chasing a little bit more achievable, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely, man. I love that. I feel like the mindset and the mindfulness and the gratitude. I feel like that's all. It's kind of like it's like nutrition for our mind and our body too. So that kind of
100%.
goes hand in hand and really energizes you because a lot of people. I guess I wouldn't say a lot of people, but some people like comment on my like attitude and how like upbeat and exciting and energizing I can be
Wow.
sometimes. And I'm like, well, it's you can too do this. Like it
Yeah.
just got to
Yeah.
pay attention to what's going on the inside. And
100%. I think it's a skill that could be called. Maybe some people naturally just have the inclination to do so a little bit more frequently, or like just like you do. You have a smile that's just it's contagious. You feel me?
thank
Like,
you.
and some people just have that it thing, that it factor. But I think it's a skill that all of us can work on and benefit from, no matter where you're starting at on that continuum.
Yeah, and I love that you said that too because growing up, it was always like, why me? Like, what's going on? Like, my parents got
Yeah.
divorced. I'm like, oh, I'm the only kid who's got divorced parents. Like,
Yeah.
this is challenging. Like, we don't have any money. This kind of
Yeah.
things. Like, it's so easy to fall into that victim mindset, and then you're constantly
100%.
reminding yourself about that victim mindset. So that
100%.
practice of gratitude, I feel like, really breaks that, and then establishes a whole new identity. Even.
100%. Yeah. And like, I started this off, I was talking about people taking the pen back and writing their own story. And I really feel like that's exactly what gratitude essentially, or practice in your life, allows you to do, right? Because I think our pasts are very malleable, right? And the
Mhm.
quicker we can grab that past story and rewrite it in a way that allows us to come out as the hero, as a lot of us like to see ourselves as the villain in our own story, right? That's the faster we can write ourselves as the hero, the easier it is the faster you're going to elevate in your life in general, the happier you're going to be, the easier it's going to be to surround yourself with like-minded people who want to be happier and want to be more successful, right? So,
Yeah.
and I also think too, a lot of times, I'm not going to say it's the easy thing to do. I want to be careful with that too, but I find that it's kind of easier to look at where we're making mistakes, where we're messing up, what's going wrong. It's difficult to sit back and say, man, in that same situation, where was the lesson? Where did I grow? Where was I a little bit maybe more resilient than I was the time before? Right? It's harder to find those lessons, but if we take the time to do that work just a little bit more, it's going to pay dividends.
Oh yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Mhm.
I feel like we kind of we talked about the mindset and then the gratitude. To me, those are both like practices of reflection. Um,
100%.
so flipping it there, how often are you looking at goal settings, like goal setting goals and looking to achieve, and how do you do that? Do you set the bar super high, like these 10x kind of guys, or do you have smaller incremental goals? Like how do you look forward? Let me ask you.
For me, man, like I kind of divide my years into 90-day sprints, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like I'll pick two to three, it's usually always three, right? So three major goals that I'm trying to work across maybe various disciplines. And I really try to kind of walk that back where on an individual day, maybe all three are not getting attacked, but there's micro goals that are moving me towards that needle of the first three. So for me, I like me personally, everyone's different. So, but for me personally, I used to do the 10 massive goals here and there, and I just kind of felt like the squirrel who was running after everything, but my energy was never concentrated to actually help me bring home the nuts. You feel me? So,
Yeah.
like, I feel like dividing myself into those 90-day sprints where I'm really like, head is down, and these are the three things that I'm chasing. And like, I've got a board where, what did I move closer or did I not today? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not aiming to be perfect. So if I get the three checks in a row and I get two X's, my goal is let's not extend that streak. I always think about like the 72-10 Golden State Warriors a couple years back, right? So this is this team of essentially perfection. They blew past the Michael Jordan 72-10 team, right? And they may have lost one game in a row, they may have lost two, but sure enough, they went back to those skills and principles. They didn't push it to a third or a fourth. So that's how I kind of try to look at my attack with my goals as well. I'm not going to be a perfect human being, but I'm chasing excellence, not perfection. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
so if I'm
Yeah.
getting a little bit better, it's going to leave me in a pretty good place. A year from now, or 30 days from now, 60 days. Well, that's my mindset around it.
Yeah, I love that. I try to do something very similar, especially because I also share a background in strength and conditioning. It's you periodizing your personal
Boom.
development pretty much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey,
Mm-hmm.
what are we working on this training block? How are we going to get there? Let's break it
Yes, sir.
down. And then afterwards, it's that, okay, how did we do? Yes.
The
Do we need to
reflection.
change anything? Do we want to
Mm-hmm.
progress it or what?
Yes,
And
sir.
then you just attack it, continue going forward
Yes,
there.
sir. And that performance review at the end of them. Exactly. I love it. I love it,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes though, and you got to like. I know for me personally, I have to schedule it in and like really reflect and recap. Like, hey, how did I do? Did I stick to the commitments that I said I was going to do? Am I
100%.
still on track, or do I need to change and alter things?
100%. I think being flexible is, that's for me, I agree with you, has been so important, right? Like, so, if I'm looking and organizing out my week, I plug in my workouts first. I got to keep that cup full, plug in the client sessions, and then I look for the blocks. And like, it's not just, all right, block time here, it's empty. It's like, block, this is exactly what needs to be done with this time. And then at the end of the week, I sit back and review, like, how did I actually use that time? What happened? What popped up? Was I able to be productive? Does that goal need to be cut down maybe a little bit more, so that it's a little bit maybe more concise and actionable, right? Does it need to be made smaller? So I totally agree. I think it's this being able to step back and not just be super rigid with everything, right? Like being able to take a punch and respond in different ways and be able to change your game plan to fit how things are actually going in the game.
Nice, yeah, man, I love that.
You know?
Speaking of which, do you mind sharing a little bit about some of the goals you got going on right now? Because we're about a month into the new year, so what do you got planned?
So for me, man, I'm trying to kick off the next iteration of my 12-week group coaching course, and I do a lot of stuff with kettlebell training as well, and the meditation. And originally this program was essentially more so about teaching eating skills, so helping people learn how to lose fat sustainably and be able to keep it off just by these habits. But I really am trying to find a better way of, like, I love kettlebells. I've been really kind of diving into them over the past year, and they've just made me feel just more athletic. With having the two kids being able to do the workouts from anywhere, what I mean, that's
Mhm.
just been very helpful. So I kind of want to use this and kind of weave this into that. I'm still kind of figuring out exactly what that looks like, and the meditation aspect as well, and exactly the way I'm going to deliver this, because I think it's going to change based on how I've done it in the past. But that's a big thing. So I want to get that off the ground. Speaking,
Cool.
that's another thing, man. Like, the end of this year, a big goal of mine was to do a keynote, right? So just breaking that down into the smaller steps. So joined a group called Speaker Space, just getting around other people, number one, who are doing it in the genre, people who are
Mhm.
where I want to go, right? So, working with a coach to help break down my story and just kind of look at my angle, right? So that's been a big thing for me too. And then finally, as well, man, the self awareness angle. Like, I find that at times in the past, I'm such a dude. Like, I'm very proactive with my business and growing and expanding, and that has come at the sacrifice of me being present with my family at times. So when I'm really trying to work on, across these goals, I try to have like the business discipline and maybe a relationship one, and so for me in that relationship aspect, it's been really, if my phone is off for the day for business, I'm on do not disturb. It's slid away, right? I'm
Mhm.
fully present with my kids. I'm fully present with my wife, getting back to scheduling and organizing fun dates for the two of us and getting babysitters for the kids. Like little things like that where, all the success that I want to build and grow. I want a family who loves me and who is actively present there to
Yeah.
share with me when I reach these milestones, right? And I found that in the past, I've just been like, business, business, work, 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 stress, stress, stress. And like, I'm really trying to like approach this year and like slow down, go slow to go fast type mindset. So
Oh yeah.
those are my main three to kind of kick this 2024 off right now.
Yeah, I love that. Because like that's like speaking perfectly to me because that's essentially what I give my keynote on is I talk about robot mode
Perfect.
and how
Mm-hmm.
robot mode isn't necessarily a bad thing because their robots are efficient and they get all the work done that they need to. But the problem with robot mode is when you get stuck in it and the robots they lack that awareness, that consciousness and things around you, you lose that human side of yourself. So I talk about
100%.
how like when I was stuck in that robot mode, I was working 8 to 12 hour days, 7 days a week for about 3 years. My dad passed away and it totally unfazed
Sorry
me.
about that, brother.
My relationship with my girlfriend at the time was terrible. I stopped hanging out
Yeah,
with a lot of my friends and I just really lost health and everything. Yeah, I was making a lot of money, but I lost who
yeah,
I was, that human side. And
brother.
it wasn't until I was like, hey, I got to get out of this and get back into human mode and
Yeah,
really start to redevelop who I am as a human. Um, and that's
that's
like that was
powerful.
Yeah, it was
That's
a
very
tough,
powerful,
tough
brother.
time to get through. But once I got through it, now I'm continuing and trying to help others do the same thing. Make sure that they still
Yeah,
have their focus on their business, but they still want to look good and feel good too. So that's kind of my three disciplines when I'm goal setting:
yeah,
is have something, define what it means to look good, what it means to feel good, and what it means to do great things. So I
I
set
love
one of
that.
those goals and I work towards it through the year. So
I love that, Rob. I love that. And I'm interested. I can't wait to hear one of your keynotes in person, brother. That's a goal of mine too. I want to connect with you further. And that message really just it sat in my heart there and resonated with me deeply, brother. So I appreciate you for sharing that. That's
of
big.
course, of
It's
course, of
big.
course. So a minute ago, when you were getting into the goals and such, there you were talking about how your program, you were focusing on nutrition, and I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about nutrition. I feel like I don't get to talk as much here, and it's a huge part of everyone's lives. So
100%.
I'm going to ask you, like, how does nutrition one affect like your mindset and your ability to like be grateful if it does, and like
Yeah.
how does that give you more energy and things like that? Can you give me a little bit about your take on that?
100%. 100%, man. I feel like just like we are what we think, I feel like we become what we consume. Like whether it's media, whether it's, the Snickers bars and not to say for me, I'm a big balance guy, right? Like I feel like as far as we know it, we live one life. So I want you out here enjoying your life, but I want you out here as well putting more things into your body or consuming more that leaves you feeling like a higher version of yourself, right? So with a lot of my people too as well, I like taking that skills or habit based approach, right? And like I come with a lot of people who, at least my population, I've worked with people who do make the macros and, they want the specific calorie numbers. But, I found I've really gravitated more towards the people who just want skills or rather skills and guidelines that they can apply across the broad spectrum of their life. So working on skills such as eating slower and being more mindful, right? So a lot of us we're always eating in front of a screen or, we're consuming meals as we're sprinting to the next spot or jumping over the next turnstile to get to the next person, right?
Yeah,
But like number one, there's so much research and statistics behind that just saying number one, you eat more, but you're even at that meal itself, but you're also more likely to eat more at the following meal. You're also more likely to forget what you had at the meal prior or the day before or whatever. So I really feel like slowing down and just being more present, not only will you just enjoy your food more, but you'll just definitely make more quality choices. You'll end up ultimately eating less because you're just more locked into where you are, if that makes sense. So I do a lot
totally.
of stuff around like five senses mindfulness when it comes to food, right? Being able to taste your food, smelling it, yeah, like really, form a love bond with that plate. You feel me? Like
Yeah,
be a real active participant in that. So helping people distinguish between being actually hungry and eating for emotional reasons, right? Like if every time you jump off the phone with your mom, it's like you got to crack out the bottle of wine because you're stressed out, overwhelmed. Well, we got to start to look at those habits and kind of interject and plug in something that might be a little bit more as self-serving, so to speak, right?
yeah,
Other things like plating nutrient dense meals. Like so many of us, like once again, too, we don't think about meals prior to even starting the day. So you're hungry at noon, and then you finally sit down and say, "What do I have in the fridge to have?" And then maybe you're ordering off of Uber Eats all the time because of this. But if you
hmm
actually sit down, you say to yourself, where's my protein? Where's my healthy fat? So just building the skills of being able to create a plate and looking at quantities based on like a palm type method, like so that's kind of how that's the population I kind of deal with and help just kind of getting a little bit better, one step at a time by making just better choices in that aspect.
yeah. I love that, and you pretty much going down the same route that I try to take is like planning ahead. Like you go into any restaurant, they have a set menu of different items
Yes.
you can choose from, and
Mm-hmm.
whether you like to admit it or not, most people have their go-to meals that they have, whether it's like Taco Tuesday, Pizza Friday,
100,
whatever it might
exactly.
be. We all
Mm-hmm.
have like habits of different kinds of food. So bringing awareness to what you're eating and starting to build those kind of like menus, like, oh yeah, this is my go-to snack that I'll have if I end up running late and I don't get to have lunch or whatever. I feel like
100%.
being prepared and having these tools
That's
is
it.
where the real magic comes into play.
100%. I think preparation is so big, and also I feel like a lot of times people tend to run across the same obstacles over and over and over again. So even after you have that plan of one, and it doesn't, as we said, doesn't need to be perfect. Like if there's, let's say you're doing like 3 meals and a snack, and you got like 28 boxes on a grid you're filling out. You don't need every single box filled out, right? Like, but the more you can have an understanding of this is what is going to go onto my plate, the healthier, the easier it's going to be to live a healthier life. And then I
Yeah.
believe that in terms of preparing for things that could go wrong in advance of them going wrong is a big thing, right? So if you look ahead at your schedule and you got this jam-packed day, how can you have things on hand, pre-done already, so when the time comes to eat, you're not thinking about it, right? So
Hmm.
you got a stressful parent-teacher conference, and you already know your kid's been wilding out this semester, right? Like, what are some things you could put in place maybe that day to de-stress prior, so you're not reaching towards the pantry? Like, so a little, like as I said, preparation and thinking ahead to set yourself up for success is massive.
Yeah, what you said there just reminds me of Steve Jobs and his like wardrobe, same like all like the turtleneck and jeans kind of thing. Like if you have it already planned and you know what you're going to be doing or eating, it removes
Yeah,
that like decision fatigue. So then you don't have to rely as
that's
much
it.
on like willpower of, oh, do I want to do this or do I want to go to the gym or yeah, I think that makes
Exactly.
it.
I think
Um,
that's so powerful.
I love that
Yeah.
you just said a minute ago too. You said something about slowing down and using your senses to like enjoy the food, like actually smelling it and tasting it. I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually a meatball eating champion. I
I did not know this, bro.
yeah,
I love that though, man.
I competed in this meatball eating competition here in Stamford, Connecticut, and I just like it was me versus like 30 or 40 other competitors, and I was just crushing them. And thinking back on it, like I don't even remember if the meatballs were good. I was just eating them as quickly as possible because I didn't even smell them. I was just go, 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 go.
Yeah,
So,
I
and I
feel
feel
like
like so many people,
yeah, the goal is a little bit different in that. We're trying to
yeah,
get as much as possible. We're trying to shut off those senses and just like go crazy. That's
yeah.
amazing, Rob. I love that, man.
But I feel like everybody's going through that because, like you said, they're
100%.
so go, 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 and
Yep.
or they're
Yep.
busy, distracted with this
Yep.
phone or TV or something that they
Yeah.
lose that senses.
100%. I think it takes time, right, for your brain and your stomach to get on the same frequency and like just catch up with each other, right? So if
Yeah,
you're on this mad rush, if you're trying to be Rob and like win your meatball eating contest every single day, like it's really going to be, taking you in the opposite direction of the goals of just being more present and, eat more nutrient dense stuff. So I hear
yeah.
you on that, brother. Like the more present you can be, it just makes things a little bit easier.
Yeah, and it's so crazy too when you really do just kind of slow down and figure out like what the food's doing to you and how it's making you feel. I was just talking with my girlfriend the other day, and I was eating a bunch of food that I typically wouldn't normally have, and I'm just like, man, this is so good, and I just kept eating, 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 and then like 20 minutes later, I'm starving, and I'm like, geez, I'm like eating all this junk food. I'm eating so many calories, but I'm not getting any nutrients. And then I realize I'm like, I'm still hungry because my body's craving that stuff. So
100%. I
so
think
many
that's a
people that
big
we miss
piece
it.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, bro. Like just that when you can make those connections between these are certain foods that energize me, these are certain foods that maybe take away, these are certain foods that, maybe it's good to have in this quantity. Like when you get that understanding, goes, we're all different, right? So of how your body operates, it's way easier to set yourself up for success. And then you can
Yeah.
start to also see like what are certain foods that maybe you feel like you have less control around, or what are some foods that you should have more around in abundance because they make you feel like the legend that you are, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's those are epic. There's other ways, man, to just make eating healthier and just making living a healthier existence funner and more enjoyable,
Oh
right? The
yeah.
easier we
Definitely
can make this
funner.
stuff on ourselves, the better.
100%, man. So,
You know?
um, what are we looking at in a time frame for this new edition of your 12-week coaching program? You got
So
that ready to
that
roll out, or is that
yeah,
like in the future, or what?
so that's end of March, honestly. So right now it's just really about engagement and building, have some freemiums built out, and just kind of like I'm missing the exact word for this. Client, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, just getting more people in the funnel, essentially. Let's say it as
Mm,
that. Getting more people in the funnel for it, and eventually I'm gonna launch it with like a nice 4-day challenge and kick that
nice.
off at the end of March. But right now it's just podcasting, doing lives, just making reels, making content, taking the
Yeah.
stories from my clients, crafting them in ways that just help gravitate more of the people who are like them, who I enjoy working with, to bring them into the funnel. In terms
Awesome.
of the speaking stuff, the same thing, crafting out the story and just getting more comfortable sharing that story. And like even the biggest piece with the keynote stuff, just seeing what I'm excited about. I feel like there's a lot of things that like pump me up, but I really want to kind of go down the lane of, the find the combination between how it can impact the most, but also what just generally lights me up to talk about. So I guess I'm
Mhm.
still in the process of figuring that out. And then the other weekly goal is this, like scheduling the date night each week and just really trying to be vigilant about the hours that I keep in terms of that, right? Like scheduling it. This is what's being worked on, like, on a day out basis when I have my schedule for my day, really trying to stick to that. Like a lot of times in the past, I'd, flipping and grabbing the phone when it rings out or having clients kind of text in, just getting back at all hours of the day for things that aren't super urgent, that don't need to be like addressed
Yeah.
right in that moment. And I found that initially, while that was difficult and hard to do, people are understanding when you set boundaries for yourself. Because that's exactly what boundaries are, in my opinion, right? They're teaching other people how to treat you, but also teaching yourself what you're willing to
Oh yeah.
accept. So I've been trying to be much better with the boundaries, and that's a hard thing to do. Like when you just want to always be working and
Oh yeah.
absorbing new knowledge and trying to put on new skills, like slowing down that aspect and understanding there's much more to life than just this.
Yeah,
So
I know even sometimes still I kind of struggle with holding myself to the
hard,
boundaries that I stick
hard,
to. And I got to constantly remind myself bigger picture and like, hey,
yeah,
nope, this is what I said I was going to do.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the program when it does come out. So it's going to be it's like a 12-week thing. Is it
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one coaching with you? Is it in a group setting? Like, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like in the past, how I've done it was essentially it's a group coaching course. I program their workouts for everyone for that 12 weeks. We meet once a week and we kind of go through essentially a main topic for that week.
Mm-hmm.
People are partnered up. Um, how and in the past we'd kind of go through the same scheme, like everyone's kind of working on the same skill at the same time. But as I've just continue to evolve and grow it. I just understand people are just flexible beings who are at different stages in their evolution, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've simplified the amount of skills or the type of skills that we're working on. And I'm still figuring out how to cultivate it in a way where, person A and C can come in and they can still be working on different skills, but still kind of find that way of connection, if that makes sense. But I
Mm-hmm.
think a big piece of the group, it reminds me of being a college athlete, right? Like me being able to lean into my team. And it's one thing going through an experience yourself, but it's a whole other thing being able to lean into the person to your left and right when you're not feeling your best, or maybe their flame is going out, but you're feeling extra pumped up, and you can kind of lean to the left and light them back up on fire, right? Like I
Yeah.
find like that's been the coolest part. So like right now I'm kind of in the scheme of just trying to maximize it. But I think a lot of times too, as an entrepreneur, I've struggled in the past of trying to just that perfection type mindset. I'm continuously sitting back and talking to myself and letting myself know that this is just something that's going to get better every single time. And the iteration may change or maybe tweaked, but that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Like it itself is going to be just in development. The more I do it, the more I grow, and I'll kind of figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
So like what I was talking about even with the bells, like I'm thinking about experimenting with doing like live workouts as a team throughout the course of it,
Ah,
right? Like so different things like that, live meditations together. So I'm just trying to see while I'm trying to build independency for people, right? But also kind of finding the balance between helicopter dad and just like being a part of every aspect, but also letting them grow their wings on their own to be able to fly. So just finding
yes.
that balance, I felt like that's where I'm kind of right now kind of writing things out and just kind of testing some things and just seeing what feels the most comfortable to me to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
So
that's important. It's got to fit for your style of coaching and everything too.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
Now, who is the program for? Is it for just athletes because like your strength conditioning background, or is it?
No, not even just for athletes. Honestly, like, I get a lot of it's for individuals who they're tired of the 30-day fixes, or, going back to the same diet that they felt worked but isn't really giving them results long term. I'm
Mm,
looking for the people who are looking to they're looking to make these changes, and they're looking to make the changes that, that'll benefit them 3, 5, 10 years down the line, right? Like, so I have people who are 45 years old who've never played a sport in their life. Like,
mm,
but the beauty of stuff with this, like the bells, but actually, like to me, I feel like the tools, depending on whatever tools they have, it can be brought out in terms of athleticism, if that makes sense. But like, I really kind of do want to kind of make this geared around the kettlebell. But
Hmm.
yeah, like it does. You don't need to be an athlete. I want to unleash your inner athlete. I want to show you that, if you have a body, in my opinion, it is athletic. You are an athlete. You're meant to, shuffle, crawl, run, sprint, change directions. And, I find that when people, especially people who don't have a background of doing so in an organized fashion, when they're able to express their bodies and move in this different way, there's something extremely empowering about that. And it's
Yeah.
really cool to witness somebody do that. Like somebody who's, like a 55-year-old mom, double clean 235 kgs. And she's just like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like it's a cool thing to watch people overcome their self-perceived limitations of themselves and write a different story. Like it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That stuff lights me on fire, you know? So I'm just happy to be the athlete doing it, but I think we all have that competitor inside of us who, if we put them in the right situation, can be let off the leash to just go.
Cool. So if people are interested in signing up for this, do they have to wait until the end of March, or can people reach out to you now and kind of see what's going on, or
Yeah,
what?
so like I'm open now for one-on-one training and coaching, but the group will kick off. Is I like taking everyone through this on a journey, right? So you can message me, jump on the wait list, but group wise, like we'll all kick things off together as a team, and we'll
Cool.
dominate it together. And I'm excited about that.
Cool. So how do people reach you and stay connected and see what you're doing or ask you questions and things like that?
Yeah, you're the man, Rob. I appreciate you, man. You can reach me on Instagram at soji.james1. That's soji.james1. You also go over to sojijames.com. And yeah, and I'm eager and excited to help and connect. If I sound like somebody who's in your wheelhouse of energy and you're interested, please shoot me a message. Or if there's one gem that was able to help you, just let me know, man. I'm really, really lucky to have shared this platform with you, Rob. Thank
There
you
you
so
go.
damn much, brother. Thank
There
you.
you go, guys. So if you're interested in the group or some one-on-one coaching, reach out to them on social media, or even just shoot them a message. Tell them which piece of value resonated most with you on this talk. Because man, I took away a whole lot of things, and I genuinely appreciate you taking this time to out of your day, because I know you're very busy, to
Appreciate you,
come
brother.
on and share your value with the audience. And I love the energy and everything. And I want to be courteous of your time. So before I let you go, I got to ask you, man, if you were to boil everything down and if you were to give one piece of advice to help survive the side hustle, what would that be?
You got to constantly be living in the gain and not living in the gap, right? Don't measure yourself against the ideal of where you feel like you need to be right now. Measure yourself against the person who you were yesterday, who you're improving from. Live in the gain. Don't live in the gap, man. The gap is it'll suck you dry. But if you're constantly living and leading from a place of gratitude, a place of celebration of yourself, you're going to be in a very, very good place. Self compassion is not a weakness.
Wow. Love that, man. I love that. Thank you so much again. I can't wait to connect with you again in person and see what you got going on and following you through your journey as speaker, coach, father, all of it, man.
Appreciate you, Rob.
Thank you so
Let's keep
much, and
getting better,
let's talk
brother.
soon.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right. Peace out, guys.